more for you, you feel it. You know it. This is your life, and it's time to go from contender to champion. This is the show. John Madsen.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is the show. Once again, I couldn't be more excited to be here with you today. I love sharing my thoughts. I love sharing what I call these revelations that pop up in my mind when I'm journaling, when I'm writing stuff down, when I'm meditating. I think about these things, or I've read about it and I want to expand a little bit more deeply. And all the things that I talk about on this show have helped me tremendously. And a lot of times, as I'm speaking, I'm literally telling myself the same things that I'm telling you. So thank you for being along on this journey with me. Once again, if you like it, if you love it, if you feel like a message deeply resonates within you, please take a screenshot of the episode, tag me at John Madsen Official on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you want me to dive into a topic that you want to know more about, that you think I might be able to help with, please send me your questions, show up in my DMs, and I promise you I'll get back to you. So with that being said, I do have a free coaching program that I like to promote on this show. There's no ads other than this. athleticafchallenge.com. If you give me your email address, in exchange, I will give you free 5 days of coaching. Really what I do, it's a free 5-day video series where I set the framework for you not only to get the result that you've wanted, but to sustain it for the rest of your life. And there's a big difference. Too many fitness professionals want to go in and change an outcome by giving you a strategy or a tactic. And even if you have short-term success, 95% of you are going to fall back to your old habits. So what I want to do in this 5 free days of coaching is reset the framework for you. Because if you're going to change and you're going to change for good, you're going to have to start at the level of thought. Your thoughts have to change, which is going to change your habits and behaviors. And when those change, you're going to get the outcome and it's going to stick. If you just try to treat the outcome like 99% of people try to do, you're going to be very, very disappointed, even if you get results in the short term. Head on over to athleticafchallenge.com, give me your email address, and you will be in. Now, today, I wanted to talk about motivation, and I'm going to touch on this today for the next couple minutes, and I hope this deeply, deeply resonates with you. Now, over the past decade, whether it's been in my sports performance business, training high school athletes, Division I athletes, and multiple professional athletes, or my fitness coaching program where I literally coach people towards their transformation, regardless of, what their ultimate why is. They just want to look great. Whatever their why is, doesn't matter. But the people who struggle versus the people who have ridiculous success really only comes down to this one thing. I know 100% of the time, if I get asked this question, or somebody's asking for my help with this thing in mind, that they're going to have a lot of problems. So just to give you some context, I coach people virtually all over the world, and one of the things that's required is a weekly check-in, where I have a form, and one of the questions is, how can I better help you? Because I want to be very, very clear on what the expectations are so that I can provide the result. So on this one check-in form, there's some people who will say they need my help with motivation. Also, I get reach outs every single day on Instagram, on Facebook, in my direct messages, in my private messages, via text from people that I know. I ask them what their biggest struggle is because I want to know going into it what they're struggling with. And the biggest red flag, the very biggest red flag for me, for not taking on a client, is when they struggle with motivation. And if somehow they get filtered through and then on the check-in form when they're already a client and they say they need help with motivation, I know I got to get their ass on the phone immediately and check them. Literally check them. Because motivation, relying or thinking that a person can motivate you, is a very, very disempowering thought process. Tony Robbins isn't a motivational speaker. He's a practical speaker. People who think they're going to go to an event and get motivated to do life better will never make their life better. People who go to an event to learn the strategies, to learn how to ask better questions, to learn how to change their thought process, those are the people whose lives are going to change. He said this multiple times. I'm not a fucking motivational speaker. I get asked to speak all the time, and a lot of times people will ask if I can do a motivational speech. And I say, no, I'll come talk to whoever you want to talk to, but it's not going to be about motivation. Because here's the thing, guys. I've played at the top level of sport. I've played in the National Football League on the biggest of stages. If you've never played on Monday Night Football, or you've never been to a game, you can't possibly know what this feels like. This is a spectacle. America is watching you. The national anthem, the jets flying over the stadium, the fireworks, the music, it's fucking insane. The most adrenaline that I could possibly feel pulsating throughout my whole body. Literally having the hair, all the hairs on your body stand up. Electricity running through your fucking body. I remember one time playing Kansas City. There was a fucking stealth that flew over the stadium. National anthem, fucking fireworks. We're ripping that smelling salt, I think it's ammonia, popping it and sniffing it and literally feeling like you could run through a brick wall. Like if I can get you to imagine the feeling, to be in my body, to see what I see, to feel what I felt, to hear what I heard. To work so hard your whole life for one little moment. And before that, the coach is standing up in the locker room, giving you a speech. Maybe trying to motivate you, whatever's going through his mind. Talking about last minute stuff. Music blasting right before you go out to the field. 75,000 people on their feet going bananas. And guess what happens? The moment the fucking ball is kicked off and you play that first play, all the adrenaline, all the motivation in the entire world, all external, doesn't fucking matter a bit anymore. A coach could give, it could be the best pregame speech in the world. It could be like Al Pacino in, I forgot that movie, the football movie. Inch by inch, yard by yard, right? You've heard the speech. I fucking love it. And I'm motivated for 10 minutes after. You can get on YouTube and watch a motivational video and be motivated for 10 fucking minutes. So when people say they struggle with motivation, here's the deal, guys. What I'm trying to get at is that if on the biggest stage in America in sports, or one of the biggest stages, right? There could be the Olympics, there could be the NBA Finals, World Series, whatever. A huge, huge stage when you have the most electricity going through your body humanly possible. And in an instant, when the game starts, after the first kickoff, you're back to normal. The electricity's out. Now you got to perform. How is a coach going to motivate you to live your best life? It's fucking impossible. If a person struggles with motivation, a coach cannot help them. If one of my coaching clients struggles with motivation, they can't get off the couch and into the gym, they are not my client. I do not touch motivation. Motivation, the type that works, is intrinsic. Motivation comes from within. If you don't have a purpose and you don't have a very deep resonating why, which we've talked about multiple times on this show, there's nothing that I can say that's going to pull you out of your unmotivated state. Your motivation has to come from within. Now, what I can do is give you tools. I can teach you. I can show you where motivation comes from. I can ask you the question of why and get to the root of your purpose. I can remind you of that purpose. But there's no motivational speech. And too many motherfuckers out there are waiting to be motivated by something external. The motivational YouTube videos are great. I watch them too. And I get jacked. I get pumped. And then something happens in your day and it's gone. As fast as it appears in your body, it's fucking gone. So how do you harness this power of motivation? Where does it come from? What's the type of motivation that can carry you to the greatest of great heights? I read a book, and this is the most resonating thing that I've ever read when it comes to motivation. The guy actually broke down the 4 different types of motivation, where intrinsic motivation comes from, where the superheroes get their motivation, where the greatest athletes get their motivation, where the world's best entrepreneurs get their motivation, where the best managers get their motivation, where the best parents get their motivation. There's 4 places. The first place is trauma. Something happened to you that's left a deep wound. And your mission is to correct it or make people pay for it. If you think about the movie Batman, he saw his parents get murdered. And from that moment on, he was on a quest. He was on a quest to punish everybody who was doing wrong. His intrinsic motivation was stemmed from trauma. Now, none of these things are right or wrong. None of these things are right or wrong. I'm simply saying, and what the author simply stated, is that if you understand where your motivation comes from, you will be on a quest to become the hero you were meant to become. The first one's trauma. We're not going to get deep into these. I just want to briefly mention them so you can think about them. The second one's destiny. Destiny. You were destined, you almost feel compelled to do the thing. You're on a mission to fulfill your destiny, whatever that destiny is. Maybe it's to be the greatest. If we go back to trauma for a second, the trauma could simply be like Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan getting cut from his 9th grade team. That wounded him so deeply, he carried it all the fucking way to his Hall of Fame speech. He was on a mission from that day. Destiny. Other great athletes want to fulfill a destiny. If you think about a superhero movie, I think of Wonder Woman. She was fulfilling her destiny. The third one is altruism. You want to make everything right. For a group of people, for a race, for a gender. Whatever it is, your sense of altruism is going to carry you to the highest of highs. Once again, none of these things are greater than the other. Everybody is going to have a different motivating factor if they're aware of it. See, people who struggle with motivation aren't aware of these things. They have no intrinsic motivation, therefore they struggle. Therefore, no coach can, other than show and try to pull it out of them. Motivation is a subject that you really can't touch as a coach. Motivational speakers know this. People are offended. The people who you think are motivational speakers, if you call them a motivational speaker, they're offended because they know they don't do motivation. The great ones change lives. because they literally give you the tools to change your thoughts, which is going to change the outcome. They're not up there doing rah-rah bullshit that's going to get you out of bed. And the last motivating factor, intrinsic, is self-expression. Some people wake up and they just want to know how great they can be. They want to see themselves grow into the most exceptional version of themselves possible. And that's enough. Maybe it starts out that and then it can switch. What I'm trying to say is it can switch. You can start out in this self-expressive motivation and then all of a sudden realize that you want to fight for a right and you shift into the altruism type of motivation. But at the core of any great superhero, at the core of any great athlete, at the core of any great entrepreneur, there is one of these types of motivation. Maybe an entrepreneur who's worth $500 million had a father who said that he was never going to amount to anything. And his whole life was trying to prove his father wrong. Trauma. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It has to get you out of bed. Has to make you excited about your day to achieve and go out and completely put your heart into achieving your highest mission. You see, the people that don't struggle don't need to be motivated, which goes back to the whole point of this podcast. When I asked that question in my check-in form, the people who crush it not once ever need to be motivated. They're already motivated. They're already motivated. They just need to know the way. They need to be led. They need to be given the tools. They need to learn how to change their thoughts so that their behavior changes, so that their outcome changes. They don't need to be motivated. They don't need a motivational speech. So what I want you to do is think about that. Are you a person who thinks that your biggest problem is that you need to be motivated? If you are that person, if you're not getting results because you're unmotivated, you better dig deep within your heart and figure out what your fucking purpose is. Because without a purpose, without a meaning, there is going to be no motivation. It is up to you to find your own motivation.
Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode of The Show with John Madsen. The greatest compliment that you could give us is liking, loving, and sharing this episode with all of your friends. So please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then share it online with everyone that you know. Make sure to tag John as well. He loves to hear from listeners of the show. The links for all of his socials and iTunes are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to engage John for anything related to his coaching, consulting, or programs, please visit johnmadsen.com for everything you'd need to know on how to engage with John offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Show.